right, everybody. We are going to drape the basic skirt today, and I'm going to start with the front, and then I'll do the back. That makes sense? And so let me just talk a little bit about what we're going to do first of all. So here's the muslin, and it's all blocked, so we're ready to go. And I'm going to start with this part here, center front over to the side, and then, so I'll use this piece there, and then I'm going to use this piece on the back, center back to the side. So I'm going to do this half of the body, all right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I already have drawn in my 1-inch seam allowance, and that is straight because it's going to go right along center front, okay? And so there, that is my lengthwise grain. And then I'm going to do, for my crosswise grain, I'm going to use my hip line, okay? So make sure that your hip line is nice and straight. And because from the waist down to the hip, we're looking at about 8 inches. So I want to add some extra here at the top. So I went down 11 inches, okay? So I'm 1 inch in and 11 inches down, okay? Now, on the skirt, let's just kind of remember what we did when we were drafting and what your sloper looks like. So on the skirt, we have our straight line here down center front, and then our cross grain, and then from the hip down, it's just straight, right? So I'm going to measure over from center front to the side seam, then I'm going to add in my ease, and then I'm going to put that line straight down, okay? So how much ease would I need from center front to the side?
Quarter.
Well, how much do I want total at the hip? I want 2 inches, 2 to 3, so we'll go at the 2. So from here to here, ½ inch, right? Okay. So I'm going to measure from side seam over to center front, and I've got 9½ inches. And then I'm going to add in my ease, so that's 10 inches. Okay, so I'm going to measure 10 inches to here. Okay, and then I'm going to go down here and measure 10 to make sure I get it nice and straight and on grain. And then I'm going to draw a line there. Okay. Okay. All right. So there's one other thing we're going to do. I'm going to put a guideline up here near the waist. Okay, and it's just going to guide us, and it could end up being a little bit off. It usually is, but it's a good place to start. Okay? So what I'm going to do is, if I were to take this straight up and go straight up to the waist, I would be about here. Okay? But because we know that the waist is smaller than the hip, I'm going to move in about 3/4 of an inch. Okay, and that's just a general guideline. Okay, so I'm going to mark that. Okay, and then I'm going to do a straight line. Okay, so I'm going to use my clear ruler because I want to make sure this is perpendicular to my hip, okay? So let's get that right where it's supposed to go. And then I'm just going to draw a line down about like that. Okay? So I want to make sure, all right, I'm going to go down just a little further because, all right, because this is a little bit, it's not as deep as some dress forms. So I want to make sure I hit that at the waist about right in here. Okay, so this is just going to be my guideline. So now that I've got these lines on, I'm ready to start. Okay? So first thing I'll do is fold back the seam allowance. Okay. After doing the bodice, front and back, you've already learned a lot about darts. And so today we'll keep talking about darts and how they go on. And let's see, and you've learned a lot about how to pin the drape when you're done. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to put the cross grain right at the hip, and the lengthwise grain is just going to go right up center front. Okay, and so we'll go ahead and pin this here at the waist. Okay, and we can just pin it all the way down just to keep it where it needs to go. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is, if I bring this over at the hip line, I'm not going to put the ease in yet because I want to make sure that it's balanced. Okay, so balancing is tricky, and what we're trying to do when we balance is we're trying to get this cross grain parallel to the floor. Okay, the dress form, we have all of our lengthwise lines that are easier to use, so really it's just making sure that we get this balanced. So if I bring this out like that, does that look straight to you guys?
Yeah, that actually is really nice.
Okay, good. What's that?
Yes.
Okay, good. The thing is, even though I've drawn, I've put all these lines on and it's on grain, you still have to make sure it looks very straight on the dress form. All right? And since I'm not totally in front, I'm kind of looking at you guys. Okay, so that's what we have so far. Okay? So now what I'm going to do is I want to keep that same grain, and I'm going to move this in to include the ease. So I'm just going to bring that in right here. Okay. I'll pin that down, and then this I'll just kind of put in here, and then I just want to make sure that still looks on grain. Does that still look nice and straight, and then it looks balanced? Okay. All right. Okay. Good. Okay. Now, with
Where
this,
did you pin it
yeah,
to
go ahead.
add your ease?
Right
at the side seam?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And as you guys know, when I'm working on this side, the side seam is on the opposite side of the raised side seam, right, where the stitching is. So I put that on this side of the stitching. Okay, now let's just say that I got my guideline perfect, exactly where I need it. That is probably not the case, but we'll start with that. I'm now going to kind of move this over, and I'm going to bring this up flat here, and I'm going to go ahead and pin that, okay? And then we'll check to see if we like it or not. But it gives us a starting point. Some of these pins are huge. Okay, here we go. Okay. All right. So I put that there, and you can see when I come straight up, you don't really want to add any length here. But if you have like an 1/8 of an inch, I think I've got about an 1/8 of an inch here, right in here. That's okay, because we're probably going to have to readjust this. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start working on my darts, okay? So I am going to do some slashing to the waist, because I can't do this if I've got all this bulky fabric that won't move, okay? So on the waist, you probably will be slashing almost right to the waist. So just be careful. Okay. Okay. Some of this is kind of in the way. I might get rid of a little bit of it, just so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, all right. So now what I need to do is we need to remember that we need to leave some ease in here, right? How much ease do I need? Right, yeah. So a fourth is good, right in here. And I could go ahead and pinch it out, but I'll do that, I'll kind of do that later. So what I want to do first is just get a feel for how much extra fabric I have, okay? So, oh, here we go. All right. So I'm just going to pinch it, and you don't have to do this. You can just start working on it, but this does give you kind of a good place to start. Okay, so that is, I have 5/8. Okay, that doesn't seem like very much. But how much, well, I'm going to go ahead and pinch out the waist here so I don't get carried away and end up with no ease. But I may redo that part, okay? So if I do that, first of all, what do we know about darts in the front? So I only have an inch here to work with. Okay, so if I have 2 darts to do and I have inch, how big are those darts going to be?
Half an inch.
Half an inch. So what do we remember or know about darts on the skirt front from our drafting and slopers?
They're the same length.
Okay, so they're the same length. So we have short darts. They're about the same length. How big were they? Do you remember approximately?
3 inches.
Okay, so they're about 3 inches long. Good. And how about the width?
Inch.
An inch?
Half.
Half an inch for each dart? Okay, so an inch to a half inch. That's good. We'll start with that. But there's 2 here, and so I'm going to take out the ease because I think I'm going to need it. All right, so we have 2 darts we're going to start working with. So the first dart we want to put on the princess line, okay? So I'm going to bring that in. And even though we have an idea of what we think this dart should be size-wise, we still have to be careful and make sure that we work with what we have to work with, all right? So that I don't just try and make it like the sloper or the drafting, that I actually make it to fit this form, okay? The other thing is, a couple other things about these darts. Are these balanced darts? Do you remember? All right, I'll tell you. These are balanced darts, okay? We did balanced darts on the back bodice, but not on the front bodice, okay? So when we say balanced darts, that means that the fold line is parallel to center front, so that the dart legs coming out from that fold line are going to be the same angle. So that when I sew them up, they'll look nice and smooth, and they'll come together well, and they'll look good. So these are both balanced darts. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a dart at the princess line, okay? And I'm just going to start with where it looks like that might be good, okay? So, and when we are first working with the darts, we pin it to itself, okay? And we're right along the princess line. And then, how do we tell when we come to the end of the dart?
It just ends.
It ends. That's good. It just ends. That is good. So see right here how it has a fold, and then the fold just kind of disappears. So we know it's done its job. Okay, so so what you want to do though is make sure you look straight on, and you want to work with your dart legs, and as long as those dart legs are pointing where they're supposed to point, then they're probably the same length, okay? So I'm just going to put this here. Okay, now the other thing is we want some ease in the waist. Do we also want some ease in the abdomen?
Yes.
Yeah, so we want about a 1/4 inch here. We want about at least a 1/4 inch here, maybe a little more, but similar. The other thing is these two darts are usually curved, and they are here for your abdomen, all right? And so the reason we have two short darts is because your abdomen goes across the whole thing, usually, all right? Okay, and this dress form, you know, she's got a little bit of a tummy, but not much, all right? So it just depends on who you're doing or which dress form you're using. Okay, so I've got that. Now the other thing is, when I push this in and I push my dart legs together, it looks like they're pointing where they need to. But when I get to the end, if it's too far off of the dress form, excuse me, then it's too big, all right? So our darts are there to fit a bulge. And so if it's too far out from that bulge, then it's not really working too much. So let's start working on the second dart. How far apart should the second dart be? What's that?
I said 1.5 inches.
Okay, 1.5 inches.
I don't know.
Inch, okay, right in there. So basically what we're doing is we're taking this waist, and if we divide it into thirds, 1, 2, 3, then your darts are there. However, it's not completely into thirds because we really want these two darts closer together. We want them closer together so that they look like one unit. If we move this too far out, then you see, oh, there's one dart, oh, there's another, and it widens that area. So typically the darts are usually about 1 inch to 1.5 inches, like what Amy was saying. Okay, so there's, I'm gonna do 1.25 inches here, and I'm gonna go ahead and pinch this out, and then, but the interesting, I think this dart is too big. This one is 3/8, and 3/8 double is like 3/4, which is a little bit big for a dart here at the waist. And it's leaving me with a really small dart here. So I'm going to move this out a little bit, and then I'm going to see if I can kind of bring this in, because I want these to be the same, right? These darts look and are the same angle and the same width. So if I do that, then I've got 1/4, it's a tiny bit more than 1/4, but close to 1/4, so really that's 1/2 inch to 5/8, all right, which is kind of in the ballpark. Okay, so then with a smaller dart, it's gonna make this sit closer to the body, all right? So, but but can you see how it's pulling right here already? I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's already starting to pull. So I'm gonna bring this over a little bit, okay? Okay, let's get that pin to stay. Okay, so now can you see it's not pulling, but do I have some ease? I'm going to take this out and pinch out some ease here, okay? Because I'm feeling like I'm not getting the ease I need. There. Okay, all right. Okay, so let's look here again. It's easy to get that waist too tight, okay? So I pulled it out. I moved it over so I could get a little bit more into the waist ease, okay? And now it doesn't look like it's pulling so much. And I think now, okay, now we've got that. The other thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull the ease away, okay? So I'm gonna pull this ease away so that I can see where this dart ends, okay? So now I'm gonna I have to look right straight in front for a minute, or I can't get this where. So now I'm ready to, like I said, I'm kind of pulling the ease away. And then I'm looking to see where it ends. Okay, and that's, if I, okay, I need to get some over in this dart. Oh, okay, that's very good. I'll show you what I'm doing here in a sec. Okay, and I'm gonna just look to see how long. Okay, that's like a 3 1/8, and this one's a 3 1/4. So they're, all right, how does that look? So when you look right on, and we pull our ease out of the way, like I'm gonna pull that ease here, then it looks like it's not too bad. It's like maybe 1/8 of an inch or so from the dress form. But remember, we gotta have a little bit of ease through here too. So if I go in between these and I pull kind of here, I'm getting just a little bit more than 1/4. So that's good, all right? Okay, does that look good?
Yes.
Okay, oh, pulling that up really helps as well. Okay, so now what I want to do is look here and see if I, okay, look and see if I need this over or if that's looking about right. Because I want to go straight up. I think that's good. So I actually ended up taking almost 3/8 and pulling it back in here. Okay, so this dress form, it's a little bit more curvy. And when I come up like this, I'm pretty smooth. I've got a little bit, but not much. And then you can see there's my ease. I've still got that. This, well, this, we want this to go up here. So it's gonna, okay, so that, all right. So what that is showing us, this is gonna come off here, is from here down, it's straight. Okay, so it's gonna, and then from here up, we've got a curve. Okay, I think we're good. So I'm going to mark it, and I'm gonna mark along the back side of the side seam all the way down to the hip. Okay. All right, I don't need to mark from here down because that should be straight. Now, before you guys take this off, you'll probably want to make sure that your hem is parallel to the floor, okay? And you can measure and make sure. Okay, now I'm going to mark the waist here, and I'm gonna go right along the middle of the waist, and then what do I do when I get to the dart?
The L.
Yeah. It's kind of the straight part of the L is along the waist, and the leg is just along the dart, okay? You can see that. And then, there we go. Okay. Okay. All right, we're ready to take it off. If I can get these pins out of here, and then we'll just put up on the board and get our lines all in. Okay. So I can take out the pin where my dart is, because I've got the 2 darts in. I don't need to have the ease in. And then I'm going to put it up here, and then I'll mark where the end of the dart is. And then I can take those pins out. And that doesn't mean they'll stay there, because we've got to perfect that. Okay? Okay, so I'll move this back. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the middle of my darts, and this is a very fat felt pen. You guys will have a nice skinny pencil. So according to this, it looks like it's about 3/4. So I'm going to put in the 3/8 and measure, that's 3 1/2. And I'm going to come over to here, and oh wow, that is like right on. Okay, then I got to find the middle of this. Okay, and that is 5.5 inches. Oh, look at that. They're like right on. All right, so if you're looking straight on, you should come close to this, but maybe not always. I mean, you should be always close, but you may not be right on. But this happens to be right on. That's great. That's a good sign. But I did notice this little dart looks a little bit bigger than that one, but I think it needs to start there. Let me just measure. Yeah, okay. So they kind of start on the outside of those lines. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is you can draw your the center fold line, okay? And then you can draw your darts in. Now typically, darts in the front with the abdomen are usually fit better if they're curved a little bit, okay? So I'm going to curve this a bit here. That's not very curvy. And you can use the lines on your Variform. You get it just the same. Okay, so I had that on the number 10, so that doesn't work. There we are. Okay, now again, I have a fat felt pen, so it's not looking like it's hard to see. Okay. There we go. Okay. All right, the next thing I want to do is from here up here, this is kind of curved now, so I can use the Variform, or I can just draw it in. I think I'll draw it in. And also you want to check to make sure your dart legs are the same. Okay, so that one is 3 1/8. So that needs to come up just a teeny bit. And that is right up here, and that is up here. So when I draw this in, actually, I've drawn them both up. I think it needs to come down. Okay, so you can just draw this in here like that, across here, and then, okay, this goes past the line up to here, and then this will go kind of in there. And then you can just draw in your hip. Okay, there we go. That looks a little funny there, but I think that's what it was. Okay, let's do, so there's the front, let's do the back. Okay, so I'll try and do this one a little bit quicker. And on this one, I'm going to start center back here, so I'm going to draw it on this side, okay? Okay, I think you guys have done some of the harder ones already, so you're probably feeling like a piece of cake. You got this, right? Okay, so how far down did I come? 11 inches. So let me draw that in now. Okay, and I need 2 other lines. What's my next one?
Side seam guideline.
Okay, so I'm gonna go from center back to the side, and then how much am I gonna add?
1/2 inch.
Okay, so that is 10 1/4. So this is gonna be 10 3/4. Okay. All right, and 10 3/4. Okay, and I'll draw that line in. Okay, and then I need one more guideline. Okay, so if I were to take this straight up, okay, and then go 3/4 of an inch. All right, let me try and get this a little. There we are. Okay, and then I'm gonna, okay, I wanna get this straight. So if I go right here. Okay, and I'll go down about 3 or 4 inches, okay? All right, so we're good. So now let's go ahead and, this is center back. Let's go ahead and put it on the dress form. So, okay, so when I did the other side, did I use that full 3/4 of an inch less? When I did the front, what ended up with that 3/4 of an inch?
You ended up using. You had to use it.
Right, so I took out about 3/8, and so I only ended up needing like 3/8, right? So when I do this side now, I'm gonna start there, okay? Because I want this to balance here on the side seam. So if I use my guideline and keep it, keep the angles of this side seam the same, then it'll be balanced. Okay. Okay, so center back, go straight up the back, put your cross grain and your lengthwise grain right on the hip line, and then we'll just go straight up. Okay, and I'm just gonna let that hang. Okay, now if I put this right along here, how does that look? Does that look perpendicular? Does it look balanced, hanging straight down?
Looks a little off.
Looks a little off?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me,
Yeah, just.
oh, okay, lift it up a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, all right, so now I have that. I'm gonna move that in. Okay, and then we'll look at it one more time. Okay, all right, how does that look?
Good.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna keep this here just for now. Okay, so now up here, instead of using this guideline, I'm actually going to, we went in 3/4, but I was able to, I needed extra, so I went out about 3/8, so I'm gonna do the same thing on this side, okay? I'm gonna start there and see how we do. Okay. Okay, that looks about, all right, that looks good. Okay, so I'm gonna put that here. Okay, I think I need to go the other way because I'm doing the other side now. Okay, that's good. Okay. I'm gonna put the pin the other way. It's hard to get them at the waist. Okay, there we go. All right. So I think we're okay there. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do some slashing. Otherwise, I'm not gonna be able to maneuver this. Okay. You guys are a quiet bunch today. Did you guys know it's supposed to snow tonight? Yep. Maybe that's why you're quiet. It's supposed to be what, Corey?
We're supposed to get 9 inches on the benches where I live.
That's ridiculous. Okay.
I already packed away all my winter coats, which was a mistake.
All right. Okay, so let's see how much we have here. Okay, that's a lot, isn't it? Okay, so
Remember, there's one long one.
so I've got like 1.5 inches. So I want to take out 1/4 inch. So that's 1.25 inches. Well, double. Whew. That's like 3 inches. What is going on here? Okay, let me. Yeah, I think. Well, let's see what happens. Okay, so what do we know about the darts in the back? Amy, what did you say we have?
Long and a short.
A long and a short. Okay, what does the long one do?
It's closer down to the hip line.
Right, it goes down here, and we want to put it on the princess seam, and that's going to help to shape this piece so we go from a smaller waist to a little bit bigger hip. So that's going to help give us some shape there, okay? And let's see, is this a balanced dart?
Yes.
Yep, it is. Okay, and how big was it when we were doing our drafting? Do you remember?
Inch and a half.
All right, so maybe 1 inch, could be a little bit more. Okay, that's 5/8. Let's just start with that and see what happens. Okay. All right, and so that's, okay, I need to move it over. It's not quite on the princess. Let's see. Okay. Okay, all right. So that's about 5/8, so that's like 1.25 inches there. I've got it right on the princess line. And then, how can I tell if my dart legs are the same? Same length? Okay, if it points in the direction I want. If it starts going off like this or this, then I know my dart legs are different lengths. And so you want to try and keep that the same. Okay. All right, the other thing, okay, so let's start working on, I think I'm going to go ahead and pull out some E's here. Okay. Now, how far away should I go for the other dart?
About 1 inch.
An inch.
Okay, so if we do 1 inch, and then this one is short, right? It's supposed to be short. Now, that doesn't mean it always is. Okay, so I'm going to go right here. Okay, so mostly what you're doing when you're working on the skirt back is trying to get these darts right. From here down, that's just a rectangle. But here up, that's where you're trying to create your shape and get it to fit right. Okay, so now, let's see, this one is like 1 inch, and this one is 1 inch, it's 1.25 inches. So, I think I'll make this one a little bit smaller, and it's starting to pull at the waist. Okay, so I'm gonna make that a little bit, okay, that's better. See how it's not pulling now? So let's see if I got this one. This one is 1 inch, and that one is 1 inch. Okay, and then what I'm gonna do now, we gotta see how long it is. Look at that one. How long do we want this one to be? What's kind of our guidelines here? Like, should I take it all the way down to the hip?
No.
We want to be at least what?
Like an inch.
Yeah, so we want to be at least 2 inches from the hip, all right?
The long one?
Yeah. And so if I'm 2 inches, and when I pull that in, now if I take some of this ease out, that will help. Because then I can tell, if I move my ease, I can tell kind of where I'm going with this, okay? And I'm not going to put my ease in here because the fold line has to be parallel here. So I'm going to move my ease over this way, all right? And so if I do that, just by moving that ease, that kind of helped. So let's see if I end it like about right here, and then this one needs to be, okay, so how's that? Does that look like about where it stops?
Yeah.
Let's measure that. Okay, that's like a little more than 2 inches, so that's not bad. Now how about this one? This is supposed to be a short one. Let's move some of that ease away.
Yeah, there we go.
And also, so that's not bad. And then we want to get it, see, it's kind of going over that way. So that says that it needs to come, okay. That still seems like it's, on your sloper, do you remember, were these the same? See that?
Like length?
Were these the same width?
No.
Do you remember? I think they were. If you guys remember. All right. You can look at your draping, if that one, or your drafting or your sloper to see. Okay, so this wants to be a long one. So I think that I've got too much ease here. Okay? Or it's not pinned exactly right. Oh, that's better. Okay. Now, sometimes when I've been doing fitting on people, I'll notice that that sometimes they need 2 long darts here. How does that look? I feel like it's still too far away from the dress form. Wait. That's not too bad, but I feel like it wants to be a long one down here. So we either have to take up, kind of move this over a little bit. Like we want to still keep our ease, but maybe we can move that. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit off here. I think I might have it turned. Okay. All right, I think that's better. I just I put a little bit more off on the edge. Okay, so if I move my ease over, the other thing is, remember that we also want some ease here. So if I pinch out some ease right through here, or here, like when I pinch out in between, that's about how much ease I want. So I think I'm okay. All right, how does that look? We gotta move on, right? Okay, so sometimes you could just keep fussing away, but I think we're good. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to do the side seam. Okay, and that, I've got to get some of that. Wait, right, so just go ahead and mark your side seam. Okay. Okay, I think we've got it. So let's take it off and finish it. So we'll finish putting our lines in, and then I'll show you how to pin them together and put them back on the dress form. And it looks like we're able to balance it. This back was a little bit fuller right through here. So it starts out at the same angle up here, but it kind of is a little bit fuller in the abdomen. Okay? So, okay. All right, so I've got these marked, and I'm marking it for the level. Okay, so this dart is 1.25 inches. Okay, so that is about 3 5/8. And wow, that's off. 3 5/8, and that goes like, I was off about 1/8 of an inch there, but I've got the same level. So I'm gonna draw, and this one is just an angular dart. Okay, it's pretty flat right there. Okay, and then that's like 1.25 inches, so that's about 5/8. 6. Okay, that one actually was good. Okay. All right, so now I just need to, I should measure, make sure my dart legs are the same. That's like 5 5/8. That's good. And this one is 4 inches. So it's a little bit longer, but this little dress form is, okay, that's, well, all right. So this one needed a little extra. No, okay, they're a little bit off as far as that. So when I finish here, I'm gonna put them back on and see how they look. Because I think, there. All right, because I think that this is fuller here than our other dress forms. Okay, so now that I've got that, what you want to do is fold your darts. Okay, and you want to fold them in towards center front. Okay, and once you get that folded in like that, then you can put the seam allowance in. And how far should we go above the line here? How much of a seam allowance do I need here at the waist? That's
5/8.
yeah, 5/8 to 1/2 inch. Good. Okay. And so if you fold your darts as if they were sewn, pin them in, then when you go ahead and do your seam allowance across, you'll end up with the right amount there. Okay. And then we're just gonna, so I'm gonna go ahead and do the seam allowance here, and then I'll pin this back on, and then I'll pin it to this, and so you can see how it goes together. All right?
Okay.
Okay, I think we're good for today.